Welcome to the Positively You podcast. I'm your host, Jessie Larson, and I'm passionate about helping you shift the way you think so you can create a life you're absolutely obsessed with. Each week, I'll be bringing you a guest or a thought that's going to help you feel more optimistic and equipped to take real action. Get ready to push past limiting beliefs, ditch that negativity, and start showing up as the best and most positive version of you. Girl, let's do this. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Positively You podcast. Thanks so much for pushing play today on this episode. I just have to tell you how much I love doing this every single week. It has been such a blessing in my life to be able to have this podcast as an outlet to be able to talk to you, and also in a very incredibly selfish way as a means for me to be able to connect with really cool people all over the world that I otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to connect with. And that is the case for my interview and my guest that I had on today. We got connected, and as I read her bio, I was completely blown away. Today I am talking to Sophie McLean. She has lived an incredibly full life. And like I said, when I read her bio, I was just blown away, and I was like, wow, I definitely need to talk to this human because just wow. I'll break it down a little bit. She was born in Algeria. She was living in Morocco, lived in France. She's kind of been all over the place and had a really eventful life. She has been a helicopter pilot, a teacher, a designer, a relief worker, a war refugee, a CEO. She has served as a United Nations representative on the Commission for the Status of Women's Hunger Project. She has been shot at, shipwrecked, and she's been widowed. She has lived all over the place. She's lived on a farm, on a boat, in a penthouse, in an ashram. I don't even know what an ashram is, but really, I mean, just that little paragraph, I was like, wow, this is a woman with a full life, which means full of stories, full of knowledge, and I was so excited to talk to her. Sophie loves talking about deconstructing the ego and what it means to be human and shifting that. We talk about awareness and presence. Anyway, it's a completely phenomenal conversation, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Let's get right into it. All right, my guest today is Sophie McLean, and I am so excited to talk to her. When I first got connected to Sophie, I was completely blown away by the amazing and full life that you have lived. And I knew that you were someone that I wanted to talk to and just pick your brain and dive into all of the things that you do. So Sophie, if you want to just tell a little bit about yourself and what kind of your mission in this life is.
So hi, Jessie, and thank you for having me as a guest on your podcast. I listened to a few of your episodes, and it was great and fun and uplifting. It's I'm delighted to be here. So as everybody can hear, I'm French, but I am a strange kind of French person because I never lived in France more than 3 years in my life. I was born in Africa, brought up in Casablanca, Morocco, and when I was 12, I had a gift, like an epiphany. I was in the garden of my parents, and my family was getting ready to sit down for dinner. And I was in a moment of stillness and quietness. And I got a message, very much like you download a program on a computer. I got a message that I was living in a cocoon, and that cocoon was not a reflection of life and of the world, and that there was many things I didn't know and I needed to find out. So that was great, but it was a second insight that shook me, and that whatever I was going to discover was an illusion anyway. So at 12, it was, but it was not needed for me to understand it. I got it. It was like literally downloading a message. So I ran to my parents. I said, all right, I understand everything. life is an illusion and we're living in a cocoon. So my parents looked at me and said, all right, we have a crazy one here. And that nickname stayed with me all my life, the crazy one. With love, I have very loving parents. But at that moment, Jessie, I got it so profoundly. My life became a search, a yearning, like hungry for adventures and for um, just going beyond the pretense and the illusion. And I have never stopped since then. And I'm now 60-year old. So you can see it's been quite an adventure. And my mission, if you want to call it that, is really to give access to people to elevate their consciousness. So what do I mean by elevating their consciousness? Is that I believe that life is a school, that there is no resisting evolution. We all, there is absolutely no way to resist wherever the impulse of the universe takes us. And there are ways to lessen the struggle, because there is two kinetic energy. Kinetic meaning it moves from one place to the next, right? There is either suffering or there is love.
Okay.
So the only message I have for my student is, all right, choose. You're either going to elevate yourself through suffering or you're going to elevate yourself through love. You will probably end up at the same place, but the voyage is a very different experience.
Okay. Yeah, that's really cool. And what a gift for you to be able to have gotten that download, as you call it, at such a young age, and to be able to be more aware at such a young age, because like you said, so many of us were just like sleeping our way through life and life's just kind of happening to us, and you had that hunger to just go out and live it all and experience it all and be more aware of that. And I think that that's something that, especially after this crazy year that we have all had, that a lot of us are kind of yearning for, that we're kind of like, okay, there's got to be more. I'm done with surviving. And so is that something that you kind of teach and help with, where we can kind of get that message that you got when you were 12 and what we can do to shift into not just sleeping through our lives, not just surviving and getting through, but actually really being alive and really diving into this life that we've got?
Yeah, so absolutely. So you first, I totally agree with you that during this last year, many of us have woken up going, okay, I better take a look at my life here, because it is as if the universe told us, go to your room and stop misbehaving and start thinking consciously, right? We all were sent to our room. So many of us have used that year to look at our priority and do some internal work to practice awareness, right? So awareness is the ultimate power is one of my mantra, Jesse, because when you teach your child to cross the street, you tell them, stop, look right, look left, and then make a choice if you're going to cross the street or not. This is what awareness is. Stop. And pre-COVID, we had a very busy, noisy life, running around, producing results, not taking the time to examine our choices, our thinking, our action, and that is very costly. So the main access, why I say that awareness is the ultimate power, that just even a few times a day, to take the time to stop and examine what is happening. And I'm talking a few minutes will make an enormous difference in anybody's life.
Yeah. Well, exactly what you're saying. We're running around and we're busy, quote unquote. And then we wake up 5 years later, 10 years later, and we don't even know how we got there. And so I love that about even just being intentional just a couple minutes a day to be aware of what you're even doing and why you're doing it.
Yes, otherwise life will teach you, right? So I was 28 when I got married. I went on honeymoon, and 5 days after I got married, my husband died on honeymoon. And the only thing that saved me is that I was on honeymoon. So we were madly in love, right? But I learned many things from it. But one of the lessons I learned is to always, always, always be present. Because I knew he loved me. He knew I loved him. And those 5 days where we expressed our love nonstop allowed me to go through the grief and to create another life, because I don't think I would have done well if he had died on a fight, or if I spent 10 years with him and got used to him and didn't make the time to tell him I loved him. So this awareness of, for example, if you're in a couple, looking at the person you wake up next to in the morning and force yourself to not know that person, to not go, oh, yeah, I know him or I know her. Yeah, I know what she's going to say. It's rare that when you get up in the morning saying, and who are you?
Yeah.
So that is what awareness makes possible. It's like 1 minute a day, look at your children and let yourself be overtaken by the grace of having those little ones in your life. Look at your home, look at your car, just when you brush your teeth, just take 1 second to be grateful because there is water. It's a discipline. It takes a few seconds, and then after that, it becomes a way of being. It becomes a habit.
A habit. So would you say that gratitude is a way to help you be more present?
Um, Gratitude comes from being present. You see, it's like the color and the light. When there is no light, the colors are not hiding, but the color arise with light when you put on the light. And it's like gratitude and being present arise together. Then there is the experience of joy, right? Because when you're grateful, it's always for a gift, something that occurs as a gift in the moment. So then you have the experience of joy. And when you have the experience of joy, that is a possibility of world peace, because nobody that is experiencing joy will go and kill somebody else or fight.
Very true. Very true.
Right?
And that's something that when I'm reading about you and learning more about you, Sophie, that your mission and what you've said you're wanting to be a part of is helping to create this new culture, right, of these joyous human beings who aren't out causing pain and suffering in the world. And a lot of times, when we sit down and we turn on the news, or we have our social media feeds, and we've got all of this suffering and negativity going on in the world, it can seem overwhelming to think, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to change this? And so I'm so curious to get your take on that, where you say we're shifting in this experience of being human and what that even means to be human. And what is our individual part in that, in being part of that bigger collective? Because it can seem like, who am I to do that?
Indeed. Okay, your questions are so profound, Desi. So I'm trying to not talk too much, but I mean, after all, it's a podcast, so I'm supposed to talk. So
please keep talking.
So there is a shift happening from Homo Sapiens to Homo Spiritus, right? So Homo Sapiens is the reign of the ego, and the ego is all about survival. So at the beginning of time, we needed to survive the weather, the animals, and we learned to survive. That's how I know that is we're still around. But as we grew up, but as we elevated ourselves, we started to survive our thoughts, we started to survive each other, we started to survive cultures and fear shifted from the physical to the mental and the ontological. So the reign of the ego is not bad at all. If you look at all the progress we made in medicine, all the technologies, we put men on the moon, we invented the computers. I mean, it's amazing, right? That is all the ego, but it is driven by survival. And as I said at the beginning of this call, there is no resisting elevation. So it is time to shift now to Homo Spiritus, which is the five senses, very much like the Homo sapiens. We use our five senses to survive the external world. But using our five senses not to survive, but to be alive and connected to who we really are, which is the soul. And that's why it's called Homo Spiritus, is that who you really are is your soul that's incarnated in a life and in a body. So you still have to be responsible for being on the material plane, but you are connected to the spiritual. And when that happens, you have authentic power, guidance, intuition, desires. Life is delicious because you feel guided and protected. And there is this alignment which is exquisite because there is the experience of nothing can mess with you because you know who you are. So that's a shift that is happening, and a shift that way, it's like a birth. A birth never happens painlessly. So at the moment, what we witnessing is things seems to be getting worse, and I think they will get even worse than that. But it is to be seen as a birth pain. The light is being shown on everything that doesn't work, and it's quite a lot. So how do we deal with that, right? Personally, well, the many of people ask me that question: what can I do? What can I do? And we tend to look outside of ourselves. Can I go and feed children? Can I go and plant trees? Can I go and do something? But no, I mean, yes, go and do it if you want to. But it's the first step is to do this internal work, which is that needs to bring you to remembering who you really are. Because once you do, then you are totally free and your power is amazing. And I know people call it self-development, but it is not about you. It's about collective fulfillment. Because, I contribute so much more wisdom and peace and love than I used to do when I didn't know who I was. Right? So it really is for the collective. And the Dalai Lama said something very beautiful. He said, if you seek enlightenment for yourself, you're a fool. If you seek enlightenment for others, then you're wise. Because enlightenment by itself is all about others. And the paradox is that it starts with you.
Yeah.
So you need to do this internal work. And there is many things available, right, in our world now, and quite easy to reach. So there is many options.
Yes. Well, I like what you said too about, you can go out and serve and help the, hungry, or plant trees, or help with this cause or that cause or whatever cause. And all of those things are incredibly noble, but we don't all have the time to go do that. We don't all have the resources. And so saying that it starts with you, one of the things that I talk about a lot on this podcast is having that big dream, that big vision, and then bringing it way back down to what I can do very small on a daily basis that I can do to move forward to that bigger dream. And so I'm curious, what is something that you would say that you can start with on a very small level that I could maybe even do on a daily basis with being present or whatever, that helps me connect more to, like you said, remembering who I actually am? Like, is there something that I can do every single day that helps me get back to that place?
Well, we talked about being aware, right? So being present. that's definitely the first step. So if you are cleaning your house or driving or playing with your children, just take the time to just let yourself experience what is happening at that moment and who you are being at that moment. And then Jesse, I have a design because my commitment is so big, right, to participate in the creation of the new culture for humankind. I want to give your listener my gift. I've designed this free course. It's totally free. There is no ties. There is no hidden meaning. There is nothing at all. It's a 21-day email course. And you just put your email and you receive 21 days of videos and all the chapters of my book, and that should start you on the path to enlightenment. This is why I did it.
Oh, I love that. I actually, before I hopped on this call with you, signed up for that course. So I'm excited to get it. And I will link everything so that they can get there to that course, because I do think that having something like that, having something intentional and someone who can guide you through that is an amazing gift. And so the fact that you've made that available is just fantastic. And so that will definitely be pushed out to everybody if they feel that call, that that's something that they want to do. That will be available for them. So thank you.
Great. And I also did a Facebook group for that free course. So every Friday we have a call. All the people participating. There is over 3,000 now. It's been just out for 2 months, but there is about 3,000 people. And it's fun to connect all over the world with everybody, engage. Okay, what do I do now and how do I deal with that? It's really great. It's a really great thing to do. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And that's just speaks to the growth in just 2 months of what that means when you do the work and when you're intentional and when you become aware of the goodness that does, where it's just one person and suddenly this group is growing. And if every single one of those people makes an impact, the change that brings about. And so that's amazing.
Yeah. Great.
Awesome.
Great.
Is there if you could leave one like nugget of wisdom to our listeners, what is like the one thing that either you don't get asked that you love to talk about, or that you just like when you want to shake somebody and like let them know something? What's that piece of, or that message from you?
All right. I would say to somebody that really wants to listen, right? Because you have to want to hear what I say. But I believe from my experience, right? It's not a belief. I've had a lot of mystical experience, but I think we're coming back on Earth to learn something, and that we actually choose what we're coming back in this lifetime to practice and learn and heal and elevate. And I also think that if you bring awareness to it, you can find out what it is.
Okay.
So what I would recommend for people is to get with your best friend or, with a group of friends and make that a game, saying, okay, if I chose to come back, I chose my gender, I chose my family, I chose my nationality. What lesson have I learned so far? What is the theme of my life? Yeah. And what do I think is a big, big life lesson I came here to learn? And it's a really fun game.
That is a really interesting. I'm going to try that. I like that. Well, one of my favorite things about this podcast and about just growing more, and has been learning from people from all different walks of life and just gaining as much knowledge from other people. And so getting connected to you has been such a gift. And I love the work that you're doing. And it's so incredible to just like look over your story of where you came from and the different parts that you got there and the work that you're doing. If our listeners want to connect with you more, Sophie, how can they do that?
The best way is to go to my website, because I've done a very complete website. You can make appointment with me. You know the courses I give. You can read about things. So it's my name, Sophie McLean. MCLEAN, one word.com. And
Perfect.
they can find everything there and even make appointments.
Awesome. I will definitely have that in the notes as well. And I just want to thank you so much for your time, stepping away and being able to chat with me and just putting out this message to whoever is needing to hear it today.
And JC, I want to thank you, right? Because none of us can do it by ourselves. And it is, as you very well said, one step at a time, and each step counts. So I'm doing my part and you're doing your part. And I really want to thank you for it with this podcast. It will make a difference, and it does.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Sophie. You are such a light. Thank you for hanging out with me again today. I'm so glad you pressed play. If you want to take a quick second to share this episode with someone you think would love it too, that would be amazing. If you're loving the show, make sure you go and leave a review on iTunes. Reviews are like magic for podcasts, and your review will help get this show into the ears of more amazing women just like you. And come find me over on Instagram. I'm there at positively.jessie, and I cannot wait to hang out with you some more. So until next time, have an amazing week.